What's up guys, I'm Puneet from Programiz and welcome back to this series on JavaScript. In this video, we will learn about functions, how we can create them and why they are used in programming. So let's get started. In programming, a function is a block of code that performs a specific task. Functions help us to divide a complex program into smaller tasks, which make our program easy to understand and reusable. Suppose you need to create a program that draws a circle and rectangle of different colors based on user input. Now, instead of creating one big chunk of statements to create this program, we can create three different functions to solve this. A function to draw a circle, a function to draw a rectangle, and another function to color the circle or rectangle. Doing so helps us focus on the specific task, one problem at a time. Now that you know why functions are used, let's learn to create a function in JavaScript. First, we need to declare a function. So a function is declared by the keyword function and then the name of the function. So let me just call it function name followed by parenthesis, and inside curly braces we have the function body. Now this structure must be familiar if you have already done while loops and for loops. Now that we know about the structure of a function, let's directly go to an example. But before that, I want to remind you that the same rules of naming of variables applies to the naming of functions as well. Let's go to the example. I'll remove this old code and I will call a function or create a function called greet. Now inside the greet function, I want to print hello there. So I'll say console.log hello there. Let me run this program. You must have noticed that we didn't get anything. This is because in order to run a function, we need to call the function. To call the function, we use the function name with parenthesis. So outside the function, I will say greet and parenthesis and my trusty semicolon. Let me run this code. And you can see that this time I got hello there. Let's see how this works. When we call the function, the control of the program goes to the inside of the function and the statements are executed. In this case, we only have console log hello there, and that's what got executed, and that's why we got hello there in the output. When this task is completed or we reach the end of the function, then the control of the program goes back to the function call and the statements after that are executed. In this case, there are no more statements, and that's why we ended at hello there. We can verify this by adding a print statement after the function call. So here I'll say console log and then after function call. Now let me run the program, and you can see that after hello there, I got after function call because after the control of the program got transferred back to the greet function, the console log was executed. The useful thing about functions is that once we create a function, we can call it any number of times. Let me call the greet function 2 more times to show you. So I'll remove this code and I'll say greet and greet 1 more time. Now when I run this, you must have guessed it by now, I will get hello there 3 times. So if we need to perform any repetitive task, we can wrap the codes inside a function and use the function any number of times. We just need to call the function again and again. Now little tip for you, it's better to write a descriptive name for your function. For example, if a function is used to greet a user, you can name the function greet or say hello. If you're enjoying this video, please also check out Programiz Pro, where we provide tutorials along with quizzes and challenges which will help you practice and test your learning in real time. Also, the course includes projects to give you an awesome experience of how programming works in the real world. And for our YouTube subscribers, we are giving 50% off on the yearly plan. Sign up by scanning this QR code or use the link in the video description to claim your discount. In the past example, we've created a function that simply displays a message hello there. However, that's kind of boring. We can create a function that can accept some value. For example, instead of printing hello there, we might want our function to accept our name and print our name. Let me show you how we can do that. I'll use the previous code, and inside the parenthesis, first let me remove these extra 2 greets, and in the function definition, inside the parenthesis, I will add name. Now I can use the name parameter inside the function as a variable. So instead of hello there, let me say hello plus name. Now let me run this program. When I press run, oops, I got hello undefined. This is because we have defined the function to accept a parameter name. However, while calling the function, we haven't passed any values. So the function uses the default value of name, which is undefined. In this case, we need to pass a value during the function call. So when I call the function, let me simply pass the string Jude to the function. Now this value we passed will be assigned to the argument name when the function is called. This time when I run the code, you can see that I got hello Jude. Now I can call the greet function again with another argument, let's say John, and you must have guessed the output by now. When I press run, I get hello Jude and hello John. My program is now much more dynamic than before. It's possible to pass multiple arguments to a function as per our needs. If we need to pass multiple arguments to a function, we can separate them by commas. Let me create a new function that will add two numbers. I'll create a function called add numbers, and inside the parenthesis I'll write n1, n2. Now inside the body of the function, I can create a result variable that will store the sum of n1 and n2, and let me print the result. So I can say console log the sum is, and I can say result. Now I'll create two variables, number 1 and number 2, with values. Say number 1 equals, let me find a random number, let's say 6.6, and number 2 I will say 2.5 for example. And finally I need to call the function by passing the arguments number 1 and number 2. So this should be number 2. Now I'll call the function add numbers, and the parameters will be number 1, number 2. In this program, we are passing variables number 1 and number 2 as function arguments. In such a case, the value of these variables will be assigned to the parameters of the function n1 and n2 respectively. So inside the function, n1 will be 6.6 and n2 will be 2.5. Let me run this code. And you can see that I got 9.1, which is in fact the sum of 6.6 and 2.5. In the previous program, we added two numbers and printed the result inside the function. However, instead of printing the result, it will make more sense if you can get back the sum from the function and use it somewhere else in our program. We can achieve this by using a return statement. Let me show you. I'll remove this print statement, and instead of console log, let me say return result. When we return a value, it comes back to the function call, and we can assign this return value to a variable like this. So I'll say let me declare a variable called output, and I can say let output equals add numbers number 1 and number 2. Here the output variable will store whatever is returned from the add numbers function call, and in this case, since it is the result variable which has n1 plus n2, I will get the sum of 6.6 and 2.5 inside the output variable. So let me verify this by printing the output. I can say console log the sum is, and print the output variable. Now when I press run, you can see that I got the same result as before. But this code is more dynamic because I can say let output 1 equals add numbers, and I can give this 43 and 56. And now I can say the sum, the second sum is, and I can say output 2 or output 1. When I press run, as you can see, I got the two sums stored in two different variables because I was returning the value instead of printing the value inside the function. Now there's something very interesting about the return statement. As soon as a return statement is encountered inside a function, the control of the program immediately moves to the place from where the function is called. So in a way, the return statement also terminates the function. Any statement after return are ignored by the function. We can verify this by adding a print statement after the return statement. So here I'll say console log, and I can say after return statement. Now let me run the code to verify. And you can see that I did not get after return statement printed anywhere. That's because the return immediately terminated the function as soon as it was encountered. Okay guys, we need a support to keep these kinds of content free for all users. YouTube really likes engagement on the video. So leave a comment below, press that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get the engagement score high up so that more people can discover and enjoy these courses. At this point, we have covered all the basics of how to create your own function. These functions we create ourselves are known as user-defined functions. Now there's another type of function that I have not told you about, and they are called built-in functions. This kind of function is already defined by the language and we can directly use them in our program. For example, sqrt is a built-in function that computes the square root of a number. We can directly use this function in our program. Let me show you how. I'll start by removing my old code and then let me create a variable, say num, and assign it a value of 9. Now I'll use the sqrt function. The sqrt function is defined inside the math object. So instead of just sqrt, I'll have to say math.sqrt and I can pass any value or variable. So in this case, I'll pass num. Now because the square root is returned, I can say let square root equals math.sqrt num and let me print it. So I can say console log the square root of say num is square root, and now when I press run, you must have noticed that we did not have to worry about the definition of this function sqrt. We can simply pass a number and expect to get the square root back. Apart from sqrt, there are numerous built-in functions that we can directly use in our program. Actually, we've already been using some of them without even realizing it. Remember console log? That's also a built-in function. If you're interested, you can find all the built-in functions available in JavaScript on the Programiz.com website. I'll leave the link in the description below. In 2015, a new version of JavaScript called ES6 was launched. It introduced a new way of creating a function called arrow functions. This arrow function is equivalent to a regular function. As you can see, arrow functions allow us to write functions quickly and more concisely. In the next video, we will learn about arrow functions in much more detail. Now to practice what we have learned, here is a programming task for you. Can you create a program that can tell us if someone is eligible to vote? For this, create a function canVote that accepts the age of a person. If the age is 18 or above 18, then return true or false. Call the function for ages 17, 20 and 65 to verify if your function is working correctly or not. You'll find the answer to this question in our GitHub repository. Also, if you want to revise these concepts, you can find all these programs in our GitHub repository as well. I'll leave the link in the video description below. Now that we have reached the end of this video, it's time for the Programiz quiz. What will be the output of the following code? Comment your answer below and happy programming!